Hello, everyone, and welcome to Body Bags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I am Sinema77, horror and cult film lover. Today, I want to talk about a movie that I find very intriguing and very interesting. It's a Stephen King film that maybe not a lot of people know about, but I think it's a very good film and a very well done film. The movie I'm talking about is A Good Marriage, and this movie it's based on Stephen King's story of the same name. It came from the book Full Dark, No Stars. And yeah, this movie, King wrote the screenplay, and the movie's directed by Peter Askin. It stars Joan Allen, and horror fans remember her from Manhunter. Anthony LaPaglia, we would remember from like Innocent Blood, things like that. It stars Cara Buono, who everybody now knows plays Mike's mom on the show Stranger Things, and Kristen Connolly, who everybody pretty much would remember her from Cabin in the Woods. Now, the movie, Stephen King got the idea in his introduction to the story. He said that he got the idea when he was watching documentaries and watching news footage and things like that about the BTK killer, and he was wondering, like, because they were interviewing his wife and people who knew him and things like that, and he said, he wondered, what would that be like, if you found out that this person you've been married to for all these years turns out it's not the person they're not the person you think they are, and what kind of shock comes with that and things like that. And what would you do, what would be going through your mind and things like that. Would you want to get revenge? Would you want to just turn them into the police? What would be your thought processes and things like that. And that's what got King's imagination going, got him to write the story. Now the movie stars Joan Allen as Darcy Anderson, and Anthony LaPaglia plays her husband Bob. And they've been married for many years, and they have this, by everybody who knows them, they have this pretty much conceived like fairy tale romance marriage and everything else. They've been together for so many years, very little fights if any, and they've always had this great partnership, and just always been together, and pretty much loved every minute of it and stuff. And they're they also, well, Bob, he's he's an accountant, but they also run this like rare coin kind of like website shop kind of a thing, and he's like always going on trips and everything else, trying to find rare coins so that they can display and things like that. And so he's gone a lot and everything else. Well, meanwhile, there are all these stories coming up about this serial killer named Beatty. And they keep saying, like, well, we found out that Beatty struck again. Another woman has been tied up and sexually assaulted and brutally murdered, and everything else. And she suffered greatly, things like that, all this other kind of stuff. And so, so Bob, he decides he's going to go on, a trip, and, go look at some rare coins, but he's got to do some work for his, accounting firm as well. And they're getting ready. Their daughter Petra, played by Kristen Connolly, she's getting ready to get married, and they're dealing with all that, and everything else. She's going crazy because of not going crazy, but she's riled up because of the wedding and things like that. But he decides he's going to take a trip and go search for these coins and stuff. Well, meanwhile, one night she's at home and she's starting to watch TV, and this gory like torture porn movie comes on. She doesn't want to watch it, so she's trying to turn it off, and it won't turn off. So she realizes they got batteries out in the garage, so she goes out into the garage, trying to find the batteries, and she finds that there's like a little hiding place underneath the workbench, and she looks in this hiding place and she finds like a box that her daughter made for Bob. And she opens up the box, and inside this box she finds like IDs and driver's licenses, social security cards, things like that of these missing women. And and she finds out that Bob has like all these magazines, showing like bondage and rape and things like that. And she's able to put two and two together, and she realizes that um, you know her husband is Beatty. That he's the killer and everything else. And so, you know, her whole world is just crashing down on her. And at the same time, there was this guy played by Stephen Lang, who we all remember from Don't Breathe. He's kind of like always like he's always kind of like there. He's always like keeping an eye on him, always watching him and stuff. And she has no idea who he is or what he's doing there and stuff. So she comes out. She's in the rain. She's crying, and she's really distraught and everything else. And so she's going to she goes into the house, and she gets on the computer. She starts looking up the crimes and everything else, and just doing research and everything. And she's able to put it together that this man that she married to for all these years, who she thought was this really good, honest man who loved his children and everything else, and seemed like just a good, average, normal guy, turned out to be this vicious murderer. And and so she's really just destroyed by the whole thing. And so and he's like, she goes to take a Valium. He's always leaving these little notes all over the house, he's kind of like always like leaving notes. Like, her thing is she likes to snack on Tootsie Rolls, and he's always leaving notes like, do you really have to have these, and all this stuff. And she's like, yeah, I do. I need a sedative, or I need a Valium or something like that. And so Bob, he calls, and he can sense that something is wrong, and he kind of realizes like, yeah, she found out. And he's kind of deciding between whether or not he wants to stalk a potential victim, or if he wants to go home and deal with his wife, finding out his identity and things like that. So he goes home, and Darcy wakes up. She thinks she hears an intruder, and she goes and looks around, and then she goes back in the bedroom. He's there. He scares the hell out of her. And so he calmly, is kind of very strange. She's there. She's scared out of her mind because she doesn't know what he's going to do. And so he starts just calmly explaining to her that he is this killer Beatty, and that he's been doing this for a long time, and that he had a friend that like back when they were in school, he had this friend Brian, and they hated the snotty girl. He calls them snoots. They hated the snotty girls, and they talked about the idea of maybe abducting a couple of girls and forcing them to have sex and everything else. And said like his friend Brian died, but he kind of like feels like he has part of Brian in him, and that's kind of what's driving him to do the murders and things like that. And so he tells her, it's like, I'm not gonna chase you down. This isn't some horror movie where the guy chases the screaming wife around the house. I'm not going to do that. He's all like, if you want to turn me in, you can, but I think it's just fair that that if I go down, you're going to go down with me. Nobody's going to believe that you've lived for me or lived with me for all these years, and you never knew, and what's it going to do to the children and all this other kind of stuff. And that's her breaking point, where she's like, don't bring the children into this and all this stuff. And he's all like, don't worry, don't worry. It's like, just sleep on it and everything else. Well, mentally, it very much begins to take a toll on Darcy. She starts thinking that like any minute he's going to turn on her. It's like one part's actually kind of very creepy and unsettling. It's like she's asleep in bed, and she has kind of like this dream that Bob wakes up, sees she's asleep, and starts strangling her. It's like, you stupid bitch, you really think I'm going to let you live, and all this other kind of stuff. And so she's like, she's jumping at everything. She's jumping at every shadow. She's, all this other kind of stuff. And so Bob comes home, and she tells him, let's sit down, we'll have a talk and everything else. And she's all like, if I don't tell the police, if I don't, blow this thing wide open or anything like that, do you I want you to promise me that you're going to stop, and that there's never going to be another one. Do not, because he had this habit of sending the IDs to the authorities to taunt them. And she tells him, I don't want you doing that. Take that woman's ID and bury it somewhere where it can never be found. And all this stuff. We will never speak of this again. Never hurt another person. And he agrees to all these things. And so it's like, if I do this, are we good? And she's like, yeah, we're going to be good and all this. But, it's just, as time goes on, it's eating more and more away at her. She notices that like he keeps watching their neighbor, played by Cara Buono, and he's kind of eyeing her a lot of the time and stuff like that. And she's kind of like visualizing scenarios in her head about what she would do. Like at one point, he's underneath the car working on it, and she's thinking about like pulling the pulling the jack out and letting the car collapse on him, things like that. Um, she's thinking about like she's having these horrible scenarios of what if it was their daughter that was being tortured and killed and things like that, and just all these other things, and she decides she can't deal with this anymore. She has to do something. So she waits until after their daughter's wedding. Everything seems all cool and everything else. And so she decides that there's going to be a confrontation going down between her and Bob. And, she's going to put a stop to a serial killing, or she's going to die trying. And, but I don't want to give it all away here. This movie is, it's very well done. It's not really gory. I'm going to be honest with you. It's more suspense driven, more character driven, as a lot of Stephen King stories tend to be. Joan Allen really knocks it out of the ballpark in this movie. She looks great. She's kicking ass in her performance. Anthony LaPaglia, he does a great job. Always liked him. You don't have any weak members of this cast. Everybody does a good job. Stephen Lang, when it's revealed who his character is and what he's all about, he gives a good performance and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, this movie is really, really good. The thing that kind of always sticks out about me about this movie, though, is it feels, at least in my opinion, it feels very much like if Alfred Hitchcock was alive today and he was still making movies, this easily would have been a movie he would have directed. This has the feeling and tone of what could easily be an Alfred Hitchcock suspense thriller. And I don't know why. It's like when I watch this movie, it conjures up memories of movies like, Strangers on a Train or Shadow of a Doubt, movies like that. So I could easily see Hitchcock could have easily have made this into a movie, or Frenzy or something like that, But yeah, but the movie is really, really good. I highly recommend it. Great performances, good writing. It's Stephen King, so it's going to be good writing. I think most of us will agree on that. But yeah, I can't recommend this movie enough. I think it's really good. It's a good horror suspense thriller. Like I said, unfortunately, it's for the gore hounds, there's not really much meat on the bone here for you. But if you like your horror films more suspense driven and character driven, things like that, then yeah, this will be a good movie for you to watch. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Yeah, we talked about Stephen King's A Good Marriage. I thank everybody for watching this video. I appreciate you for doing it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new to the Body Bags channel, please like and subscribe. We have, there's a episode every day of the week. We have seven guys doing a episode a day. I'm the Saturday reviewer. And yeah, get on here and check it out. We got great reviews, good guys doing good stuff. And yeah. So anyway, thank you for watching. Take care. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of the Body Bags week. And this is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.